So I just wanted to give you guys a quick update on Israel Adesanya. As we know, he dropped the title to Sean Strickland a little while back now, and that was just a massive upset. And we haven't really heard much from him since then. Obviously, he was incredibly shocked with the decision, as was the rest of the world. I don't think anyone expected Sean Strickland to walk out that night as the new UFC middleweight champion, but it just goes to show how crazy this sport is, right? Anything can happen within the UFC. But since then, Israel Adesanya has come out. He has broken his silence around that loss against Sean Strickland, and he said many things which we're going to touch on within this video. And I just want to start off by saying how much of a fantastic champion that I think Israel Adesanya is. Obviously, he's fought 4 fights in the past 18 months, I think. Something ridiculous. An incredibly active champion, one of the most active champions that we've seen within the UFC in recent memory. Only Alexander Volkanovski has really been right up there with Israel Adesanya as the most active. And he's just come out and said that it has taken a massive toll on his body. I mean, look guys, when you're a UFC fighter or you train martial arts in general, you're going to get a lot of injuries, and these things just pile up and pile up. And there's not many UFC fighters that are going to be going into contests that are actually 100%. And just quickly, guys, before we get into the rest of that, if you're a martial artist, you should probably subscribe to my newsletter in the description below. We cover topics such as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, how to train effectively, and also you get my free ebook, Combat Training Essentials, which you will get for free. All right, it'll help you with injury prevention, nutrition, a weightlifting program that's going to be suitable for martial artists, okay? So if that's something that interests you, make sure to subscribe. The link for that is in the description below, but let's get into it. And Izzy did just come right out and say, he said, look guys, you're not going to see me in the octagon for quite some time. Now, it's just pure speculation as to how long this will actually be. Will it be 1 year? Will it be 2, 3 years even? Israel Adesanya isn't exactly the youngest guy going around, but he's pretty wealthy. I'm sure he can afford the best peptides that are actually out there to maintain, his physicality and those sorts of things. But I don't think he should take too much time off. I think a year maximum would probably be his best bet, obviously not extremely old at that point, but still gives his body time to recover. But he isn't going to retire. He's come out and said this, and I do believe him. I'd find it very difficult to believe that Israel Adesanya is going to go out on a loss like that, considering who he is as a person and considering how competitive he's been throughout his entire career. But I think over this time, it's probably smart for him to rest up a little bit, reassess where he's at. So he needs to check his mentality, get in a good place moving forward, get in the right frame of mind so that he can compete with these guys, because within that fight, he didn't really look like himself, he looked incredibly slow, very slow, wasn't really reacting the way that he should. Now, I'm not going to say that it was an age thing because it was only a few months prior that we seen him fight Alex Pereira and he looked absolutely incredible. So I doubt that you're going to see that within a few months, especially considering the shape that he's in. And look, he did have an absolutely incredible run, right? He was absolutely walking through everybody within the middleweight division. Obviously, losing 2 of his last 3 fights was probably the signal for him that he does need to take some time off. So fully support that. And also we had John Jones come out as well, saying that he fully supports Israel Adesanya's decision. I got to admit, guys, I find this new friendship between John Jones and Israel Adesanya really friggin' weird. It's really, really strange considering how hard Israel Adesanya was going at John Jones only 1 to 2 years ago. To just flip that around and be buddies, I think Israel Adesanya probably realized that John Jones would absolutely whoop the crap out of him, so he decided to mend that relationship. And Job went to touch on that, it was the best thing for him to take 3 years off fighting, and he was in a much better place. But I don't think that's going to be the case for a lot of fighters. John Jones is probably a freak of nature. As we all know, the guy hasn't lost a fight, which that's debatable. I think Dominic Reyes beat him. But nonetheless, that's the update from Israel Adesanya. Who knows what's next for him? How often we're going to actually hear from him. I think he's going to probably try and keep his name relevant, even if he isn't going to fight for some time. But I don't think this means that we're not going to hear from Israel Adesanya for 1, 2, 3 years or however long it's going to be before his next fight is, because I think he'll want to stay relevant. He'll want to keep that household name and make sure that when he does return to the UFC, that he'll be able to get a nice hefty pay packet. But that's it from me, guys. Catch you later.